Lesson 10 of William Walker Atkinson's Arcane Formulas. Mentalism in a nutshell. In the Arcane teaching, we have shown that the fundamental principle of mentalism, in all of its forms, is the fact that the cosmos itself is one universal mind, and that the manifested cosmos may be likened to a great universal brain, in which the forms of things and life are but as thought forms in the human brain. There is mind in everything, and everything is in mind. Consequently, just as thoughts become things in the cosmic brain, so it is possible for a strongly concentrated and focalized mind or will to materialize into objective form things and conditions on the material plane. Just as the cosmic will manifests the cosmic activities and forms, so may the individual will materialize activities and forms on its own plane. There is but one difference between the cosmic will and the individual will. The difference is in degree. All will, from the cosmic will to the feeblest individual will, is identical in nature, although widely differing in degrees of power. In fact, the individual wills are but focalized centers in the great cosmic will, varying greatly in power and manifestation. This being so, it follows that the same laws and principles are applicable in all manifestations of will, from the highest to the lowest. In the Arcane teaching, we have described the principles and laws underlying the manifestation of mentalism. And there is no occasion for entering into this phase of the subject in this little book. Instead, we shall proceed at once to give you the formulas for the actual demonstration and manifestation of these principles. We refer you to the Arcane teaching for the explanation and the theory. In this chapter, we shall give you mentalism in a nutshell, condensing into its limited space the essence and substance of what could be expanded into several books. Formula for positivity. In the laws of mentalism, there is a fundamental principle that the positive always dominates the negative. The negative is always subordinate to the positive. Everything has its keynote of positivity, and that keynote depends upon the degree of will consciousness. When one becomes well polarized in will consciousness, he is intensely positive to those around him, not only to persons, but also to environment and conditions. This positivity is, of course, dependent upon the degree of will manifested by the individual. Remember, we say the degree of will, not the amount or quantity of will. The average person, when he thinks of willpower, is apt to think of a large amount of quantity of will, which must be manifested by the individual in order to produce its effect, but this is erroneous. There can be no such thing as quantity or amount of will. This is a fact known to all advanced occultists. Will is not a material substance occupying space in the way that matter or force occupies space. It cannot be measured by spatial dimensions. One cannot think of a yard or a pound of will, nor can he conceive of will being measured by the units used in the measurement of electricity or other forms of force. There is a standard of measurement of will, but not a measurement of quantity or amount. It is altogether a matter of degree. The degree of will manifested by the individual depends upon his degree of focalization or polarity in the cosmic will itself. To repeat, the degree of will manifested by the individual depends upon his degree of focalization or polarity in the cosmic will itself. The greater the realization of one's relation to the cosmic will, the greater is his capacity for manifesting willpower. Consequently, all efforts toward developing positivity in willpower must be based upon the fundamental realization. The formulas given in the early chapters of this book will give to the neophyte the key to the secret of mentalism. The arcane formula for the manifestation of willpower consists simply in the development of the realization of egohood, of the fact that the individual is a focalized center of force and will in the great cosmic will. The higher the degree of this realization, the higher degree of positivity will the individual possess. Fasten this truth in your mind. The willpower of the individual is not something created by him, but is in reality the power of the cosmic will in which he lives and moves and has his being. The individual has no willpower in himself, but all the will he manifests must flow through his organism from the cosmic will. The individual is merely the focal point of will, a channel through which the cosmic will may act. Ponder well these words, for in them is contained the whole secret of mentalism. I'll read the entire paragraph again. The arcane formula for the manifestation of willpower consists simply in the development of the realization of egohood, of the fact that the individual is a focalized center of force and will in the great cosmic will. The higher the degree of this realization, the higher degree of positivity will the individual possess. Fasten this truth in your minds. The willpower of the individual is not something created by him, but is, in reality, the power of the cosmic will in which he lives, moves, and has his being. The individual has no willpower in himself, but all the will he manifests must flow through his organism from the cosmic will. The individual is merely the focal point of will, a channel through which the cosmic will may act. Will atmosphere. The neophyte should create for himself a positive will atmosphere, or aura, which will tend to serve as a protective armor, shielding him from adverse influences from outside, and also tending to render his positive power felt by those with whom he comes in contact. The positive atmosphere is occasioned by the vibrations in the mind stuff with which all space is filled, just as the brain is filled with mind stuff of its own particular quality. The cosmos is a world brain, remember? And the cosmic mind stuff is everywhere. Vibration in the mind stuff is just as real as vibration in the ether or in the air or in the matter of any kind and every kind. The positive atmosphere is created by a pure act of will, aided by visualization. The neophyte should first realize that he is will itself. Then he should visualize, mentally imagine, or see the mind stuff in his immediate vicinity becoming charged with the positive power of will. It will aid him to think of himself as surrounded for a distance of about 3 feet with an egg-shaped aura or atmosphere of highly charged will, radiating from him and vibrating with an intense energy. As a matter of occult truth, this phenomena is really existent, although the ordinary senses cannot perceive the vibrations or aura. Treat yourself every day or more often with the intent to increase the degree of your positive atmosphere. The more clearly you can visualize or imagine the existence of this aura or atmosphere, the greater will be your degree of positive personal atmosphere. The neophyte must not allow himself to be deceived in regarding the imagination as an unreal, fanciful thing. It is a mental activity of wonderful occult power. The neophyte will soon discover that he has acquired a new positive personal atmosphere, and that those with whom he comes in contact will feel something peculiar about him and will tend to become negative to him unless they too understand the principles involved. As time passes and practice renders him more perfect, the neophyte will move about among ordinary people just as highly charged as a highly charged magnet or electric wire. It is difficult to describe this, but those who will practice to acquire it will soon become conscious of their newly found strength. In order to focalize more fully, the neophyte may hold in his mind the mental image or statement of, I am a center of positive will. Let me back up here a minute. This is my statement. In the previous paragraph, there was a word that could have been perceived by you, the listener, ambiguously. I'm going to reread the entire paragraph. And when I come to that word, I'm going to stop and say something about it. The neophyte will soon discover that he has acquired a new positive personal atmosphere, and that those with whom he comes in contact will feel something peculiar about him and will tend to become negative to him. Negative is the word. I realized when I finished the paragraph that you hearing this video, you listening, could have taken negative as being a value judgment. No, we're talking about polarity. Positive and negative poles, like the positive and negative poles of a magnet. The more positive you are in contrast to other people, then that means they are just more negative to you as a polarity statement. That's the way the word is being used here. Okay. Now let's just continue where we left off. In order to focalize more fully, the neophyte may hold in his mind the mental image or statement of, I am a center of positive will. Personal positivity. The neophyte may occasionally find that he is in the presence of persons more positive than himself, owing to their past training or experience. In such cases, he should at once determine that they shall not overlap him, the occult term used in such cases. He should determine at least to meet the positive persons edge to edge, if not indeed to overlap them. This is accomplished by at once denying the positivity of the other person, silently and mentally, of course, by the assertion, I deny your positivity over me. At the same time, the neophyte should focalize on his own will consciousness, seeing himself as a focal center of will and having the cosmic will back of him. He will soon find that he will rise in the scale of positivity and the other will sink a degree below him. If he finds himself oppressed by a sense of negativity while mingling with the crowd, he should assert his egohood in the same way. The greater the realization of one's self as a focal center of will, the greater the degree of personal positive atmosphere will be manifested. Visualization. In this chapter, we shall speak of visualization in a number of places. Visualization is the creative process employed by occultists desiring to manifest mental images on the mental and material planes. Visualization consists in forming and holding a mental image of things and conditions as you wish them to be in actuality. The mental image tends to create for itself a material and objective form and existence. It is the mental pattern around which the material conditions tended to group themselves. It is, in fact, the seed form of the thing itself. Excuse me. The prime factor in The prime factor in visualization is to endeavor to create as clear as possible a mental image of the thing or condition desired. As if it were actually existent at the moment. These three rules of visualization should be observed. 1. See yourself as you wish to be. 2. See others as you wish them to be. 3. See conditions as you wish them to be. Around these visualized ideals, do the material realities form and crystallize. Now, here again, I personally am going to interject something. As I said in my introductory videos, the introduction to the Arcane teaching and the introduction to this series, Arcane Formulas. This material, the laws stated herein, and the principles stated herein are neutral. I am not putting this material out there for you to listen to use unscrupulously. There is always the law of cause and effect at work. The person who uses this material unscrupulously, unethically, not toward the evolution of life, but to overpower, control, destroy, dominate the wills of other people, engages in black magic. This material I am not putting out there for that kind of use. This kind of material, like I've said, is a dual-edged sword. It is up to you to use it wisely. If you use it wisely, in accordance with universal will for all life, all the cosmos, to evolve, to become more than what it currently is, for all parts, all focal centers of consciousness to become more and more recognized as one with universal will and consciousness. That is the use of these principles, the proper use of these principles and these laws. Not for the other way around. It is up to you how you apply these rules, how you apply this material. I'm putting it out there to help people evolve, to help us be able to protect ourselves from negative influences, from dark, low vibrations that seem to be dominating this world and have for a very long time and are becoming more and more overt in their doing. It is time people knew how this stuff works. It is time we pull away from the gamut of information about how to spiritually evolve. All the different schools of yoga that are so complicated, Kundalini this, and look, all of that is very fine and dandy, but this is the cut and dry material. It sounds so simple, it's easy to overlook. If it seems like that to you, perhaps you weren't quite ready for it yet. If it sounds like, this is the core of the stuff right here, this is it. This is not the end all. There's other stuff that's very useful. There are many ways to apply this, many other techniques, methods, and exercises for personal development that are extremely beneficial. Later, I will create more videos concerning some of those, but they all stuff that works right. All the things that one can do for personal growth that actually work. Underneath them are these principles at work. I just needed to say that. Because this material is the principles and laws by which things operate when they're working right, when they're actually happening. Use them wisely. The person who intentionally uses this kind of material unwisely, by law of cause and effect, gets extremely damaged in the end. It is the person who does it intentionally in that manner who gets hurt the most. Because such use, such unscrupulous use, it goes out from the person who's doing it, and everything, every bit of damage that it causes on its way around its little circle, back to the person who generated it. It carries with it all the damage that is done, right back to the person who did it in the first place. That's the law. That's how it works. Just think about it. Think about the laws that we're talking about right here in the arcane teaching and the arcane formulas. That is what will happen. That's the way it works. So be wise. Use this material to rise yourself above the influences of low vibrations. The evils or dark forces, dark entities in the lower astral plane and the physical plane here, where the human race seems to at present, as I said in the introduction, be in jeopardy right now. I'm putting this out there for you to help you rise above the influences of entities and people who use this kind of material in so many ways against humanity. I'm putting this out there for you, for your personal evolution. So let me backtrack here. The 3 rules of visualization should be observed. 1, see yourself as you wish to be. 2, see others as you wish them to be. And 3, see conditions as you wish them to be. Around these visualized ideals do the material realities form and crystallize. Statements. All occultists have recognized the value of statements. or affirmations as some people call them. These occult statements are positive assertions of the existence of the conditions which you wish to bring about. They tend to aid the visualization to a great degree, and besides have a power of their own. There is an occult power in the spoken word which is not necessary to explain here. The assertion that the power exists is sufficient for the particular purpose before us. Always use statements as in the present tense. Do not say to yourself, such and such a thing will be by and by, but boldly assert, such and such a thing is existent and in actual being now, this moment. There is also a good occult reason behind this, which it is not necessary to discuss in detail. The power of the positive occult statement must be experienced in order to be appreciated. Make your statements earnestly and positively. Avoid all half-hearted statements, for they result in half-hearted results. In making your statements, do not use a tone of entreaty or of asking a favor. Speak in a tone of command. Of course, these statements should not be made aloud to other people. They have the best effect when made in a state of meditation and concentration. Use them in connection with visualization, and you will find that they will tend to energize and vitalize your mental images. And now I'm going to interject something again. I probably shouldn't do this insofar as I'm supposed to be just narrating what William Walker Atkinson wrote. But I think that a couple things are important to get across here. Many books, many instructions on affirmation will tell us to make our propositions, our assertions, our affirmations in the manner suggested here. Others will say, no, don't say something that's not true right now, because your mind will know that it's a lie and then work toward the opposite result. Here's the secret. We have to understand that when we are making when we are stating an affirmation, boldly asserted, such and such a thing is existent and in actual being now, this moment, when we can look out into the world and see that it's not right now. We have to understand that we're working at the mental plane here. When we create the visualization, we're making a picture of something that isn't true and actual right now. Let's say we're visualizing something as we want it to be. Us, or ourselves, as we want us to be. But we're not right now. But we're creating the mental picture as we want it to be right now. We're creating the picture as if it is the case right now. And as it says here, we're creating the seed for it to happen. On the plane of visualization, it is now. That seed then creates the potential, the conditions for it to eventually manifest if we keep persisting with that visualization. It's the same principle at work with the affirmation. We have to make the affirmation as though it is now. It corresponds with the mental image. It's now at the mental level. That's where it has to start. That's where all things start. That's how it works in the cosmos. That's how we do that, and we mimic the cosmos. That's what we're doing. We're creating it in the mental sphere and persisting with it until it manifests. We're creating the seed for it with mental vision and mental affirmation together. So what this says here, don't get it in your mind that you're telling yourself lies. No, you're creating the truth mentally right now at the mental plane. As soon as you visualize it and affirm it, it is the case at that plane where it is being generated. It is the case right then because you've made it so. All that then has to happen is for it to materialize in other planes by law of analogy. Okay, to continue. Denials. Occult denials are a form of occult statements. They have a most positive effect when rightly used. With the individual focalized in will, he is able to exert much occult power by boldly denying out of existence the obstacles and difficulties which beset his path. It is marvelous at times to see how the obstructing things evince a tendency to disintegrate and disappear from one's mental world, which is followed later by a response of like kind and degree in the material world. Do not be afraid to say, I deny this or that obstacle. It has no power over me. I deny it out of my world. For me, it does not exist. Make your denials as positive as your statements. Command, not beg or entreat. Mental alchemy. Mental alchemy or mental transmutation bears a striking analogy to material alchemy or transmutation in the sense that in both there is a marked change in form and nature of the substances or things operated thereupon. Conditions and things, like material objects, may be transformed and transmuted at the will of the alchemist. Mentalism, in its most striking forms, is mental alchemy. It is the crucible of the cosmic mind or brain. In the crucible of the cosmic mind or brain, things may be and are transmuted and changed in their outward form and character. In the crucible of the cosmic mind or brain, things may be and are transmuted and changed in their outward form and character. Nothing in the cosmos can be destroyed, but everything is capable of change. Remember, first and always, that mental alchemy means change. You do not destroy things. You merely change them. Mental vibration. In all forms of mentalism, there is evidence of the phenomena of mental vibration. Vibration is not confined to the gross material substance of the universe, but is equally in evidence in the mind stuff with which all space is filled. Mind stuff is the elementary material of which the great cosmic world brain is composed. When one thinks, feels, or wills, there is manifest vibration just as truly as in the vibration of the atom or the tuning fork. Each kind of thought, feeling, or emotion has its own rate of vibration or keynote. When a certain rate of mental vibration is manifested, it tends to reproduce similar vibrations, and consequent similar mental states in the minds of those coming within its field of induction. Just as a tuning fork will cause similar vibrations in the objects in the room, so will a mind sending forth vibrations tend to reproduce those vibrations in other minds in its vicinity, or under certain circumstances at long distances. This being so, it follows that if an individual will carry in his mind a positive, persistent idea, backed up with an application of his will, he will be able to impress that idea upon others with more or less effect. He will be aided in this by the practice of statements and by visualization. For both of these practices tend to send forth mental vibrations of a high degree of strength and power. Thought waves and currents. There are waves and currents in the great ocean of mind stuff, just as there are waves and currents in the ocean or in the air. Thoughts, feelings, and emotion manifested by an individual will tend to create waves or currents in the mind stuff, which will flow out in all directions, influencing and affecting others in their field of force, particularly if those others happen to maintain a degree of mental vibration corresponding to that of the traveling wave or current. Everyone sends forth these thought waves or currents, usually unconsciously and without direct intention, and consequently with comparatively slight effect. Those who understand the laws of mentalism are able to consciously direct, concentrate, and focus the will upon those whom they wish to influence. And consequently, their thought waves and currents travel direct to their mark and to create a much greater effect. Thought forms. Thought forms are concentrated thought waves or thought bodies usually projected from the mind by concentrated thought and will, and which, when coming in contact with others, have almost as great an effect upon them as if the sender were present in person, exerting his will and mind upon the person or persons. Occultists who have acquired concentration and focalization are often able to send forth thought forms of so high a degree of power and strength that they produce upon others the mental impression that the sender himself is actually present in person, so strong is the impression created. In some of the methods which we shall now describe, the production of these thought forms will be described. Practical methods. We have said but a few words in describing the above-mentioned various phases of mentalism. We have not thought it necessary to go into detail regarding the theory of the phenomena. Those who read this book will have read elsewhere much of theoretical detail, and besides will have grasped the fundamental and underlying principles of mentalism from what we have said in the Arcane teaching. We think it preferable to pass on directly to the practical methods contained in the formulas, rather than to dwell upon the theoretical side of the subject. In connection with the methods herein described, we would say that while anyone may obtain some degree of success by practicing them, still, in order to obtain any marked degree of success, it is necessary for one to have first developed the will consciousness, or some degree of egohood. The will being the motive power back of all forms of mentalism and mental alchemy, it follows that he who is able to focalize and polarize his ego in will itself will be able to bring to bear the very highest degree of power in the phenomena of mentalism. Therefore, we have devoted the greater part of this book to pointing out the methods whereby one may develop the will consciousness and egohood within him. For when this one thing is attained, the rest is but a matter of detail. Let us now proceed to a consideration of the practical methods. We shall condense these in as few words as possible. The student must read carefully every word so that he will enter into a full understanding of the subject and methods. I will read slowly for you. Excuse me. Concentration. The neophyte must develop and cultivate the art of concentration. Concentration means bringing to a center. And mental concentration is really a focusing of the will by means of attention. Concentration may be developed by practice. Learn to shut out distracting thoughts and ideas for a few moments, holding the mind one-pointed upon the thing or idea before you. Then, after an interval, concentrate upon something else. After you have subdued the wandering tendency of the mind, gradually, you will find that you have acquired a new power of mind, which will enable you to direct and apply a focalized mental power upon whatever idea or thing to which you may direct it. We could fill page after page with detailed exercises in concentration, but after reading them, you would find that the essence of the whole thing consists in fixing the attention upon anything and being able to hold it there. This is attained only by practice, and the practice may be had by fixing and holding the attention upon anything for a few moments at a time until you grow more and more proficient by practice. Remember, concentration does not mean staring at a thing. It consists of fixing and holding the mind, not the eyes. By practicing, and you will soon begin practicing, and you will soon acquire the knack. I want to repeat something here. Remember, concentration does not mean staring at a thing. It consists of fixing and holding the mind, not the eyes. Begin practicing and you will soon acquire the knack. It is altogether a matter of the use of the attention by means of the will. All the rest is mere detail and trimmings. It will do you far more good to invent methods for yourself than to blindly follow some set lesson mapped out by others. Excuse me. Use your own minds, and you will gain thereby. The secret of mental alchemy may be stated as consisting first, last, and always of the art of mental imaging, reinforced by the will. Take up your lead pencil and mark the above statement so that you will see it easily when turning over these pages. For you, listener, I'll read it again. The secret of mental alchemy may be stated as consisting first, last, and always of the art of mental imaging, reinforced by the will. While to the beginner the subject of mentalism may seem a very complicated one, the advanced occultist knows it to be the extreme of simplicity. Mental alchemy, under whatever name it may masquerade, may be found to consist, at the last, of simply the power to create strong, clear mental images and to project them into the outer world by means of the concentrated will. Read over the above italicized words several times and fix them firmly in your mind. Excuse me. I'll read them again. Mental alchemy may be found to consist of simply the power to create strong, clear mental images and to project them into the outer world by means of the concentrated will. You will find that all you ever have read on the subject may be boiled down to the above stated principle. The rest is a mere matter of detail. This single statement is mentalism in a nutshell. Whether in the matter of the effect of mentalism upon persons with whom you are in direct personal contact, or else in the case of persons or bodies of people remote from you in distance, or in the case of the changing of material environment and circumstances, the principle is ever the same. The projection of your mental image into objectivity, and the materializing of that picture by the operation of the law of attraction. The ancient teachers used as a material object lesson to their pupils a simple contrivance, which we now know in a perfected form as the magic lantern, either in its simple form or else in the moving picture apparatus. The teachers would project upon a plane surface the reflection of a design or picture which was passed in front of a concentrated light. The reflection being reproduced on a large scale on the plane surface at a greater or lesser distance. Like a movie projector. Remember, this was written in 1909. The teachers would explain to the neophytes that the concentrated light represented the focused will. The slide containing the picture represented the mental image held in the mind, and the plane surface represented the objective world. As a matter of fact, the analogy between the magic lantern and the phenomena of mentalism is almost exactly parallel to a certain degree and extent. The pupils of the ancient teachers were bidden to fix this symbol firmly in their minds and to recall it always when practicing or manifesting any of the phenomena of mentalism. And we, likewise, urge all of our students to fix firmly in their minds this symbol of the magic lantern and always to recall it when they practice mentalism. By holding this idea in the mind, the student will be able to give an increased force, power, and reality to the projection of mental images. Do not pass this by lightly and carelessly. It is most important to you. If this book contained merely this one bit of instruction, it would be well worth your while to study it. With this symbol still in mind, we see that the power and strength of the projection depends materially upon the strength and focused force of the light in the lantern. If the light be weak or dim or flickering, the reflection will be likewise. And if the rays of the light be not focused and concentrated properly, the force and power of the light will not be properly directed and applied. Therefore, in mentalism, you must rest as fully in the will consciousness as possible, and also must hold the will firmly concentrated upon the task before you. Repeating, with this symbol still in mind of the magic lantern, we see that the power and strength of the projection depends materially upon the strength and focused force of the light in the lantern. If the light be weak or dim or flickering, the reflection will be likewise. And if the rays of the light be not focused and concentrated properly, the force and the power of the light will not be properly directed and applied. Therefore, in mentalism, you must rest as fully in the will consciousness as possible, and also must hold the will firmly concentrated upon the task before you. Likewise, if the slide containing the picture, the mental image, be poorly and faintly drawn, the reflection will also be faulty. In fact, the fault will be more apparent, for it will be magnified according to the distance it is projected. Therefore, cultivate the art of mental imaging and endeavor to train your imagination to see clearly that which you wish to project into the objective world for the purpose of materialization. Train your imagination to form and hold plain, clear pictures of the things and conditions which you wish to materialize in the objective world. Upon this one thing depends much of the efficacy and success of the process of mentalism. If you cannot fill in the details of your mental picture at first, at least draw firm, strong general outlines. And as you begin to materialize objectively, you will be able to add the details. Materialization of thought. There are certain laws in operation in the cosmos, by reason of its very nature, which tend to materialize thought images. The very cosmos itself is a materialization of the ideas in the cosmic brain. And by the law of analogy, the same thing is true on all planes. From one know all, as above so below. These are the axioms. There is a force in operation which has been called the law of attraction, by which like attracts like on all planes. And on the mental plane, the likes are materialized into corresponding likes on the material plane. Everything that is first existed as an idea or mental picture, either in the cosmic brain or in the brain of some living creature as well. There is always a mental plan behind and in every material form, shape, or condition. The student should know this fact from a study of the arcane teaching and by submitting the idea to the test of experience and reason. And when this principle is clearly understood, the process of thought materialization through mentalism becomes quite plain and understandable. When the truth of thought materialization becomes fully understood, the student learns to avoid making mental images of the things which he does not wish to materialize, on the one hand, and to make mental images of the things which he does wish to materialize, on the other hand. When he realizes that mental things tended to materialize objectively, he has grasped a fundamental and important occult truth, and he governs himself accordingly. We urge every student to fix this idea firmly in his mind, for until he realizes that mental images and the materialization thereof are but stages of the one process, until then, he has not grasped the working principle of mentalism. When this fact is grasped, then the rest is merely a matter of practice, development, and application. Aids to mental imaging. The careful student doubtless will have recognized by this time that the process of statements and denials are but forms of aids to mental imaging. When the occult statement is used, there is created a mental image, consciously or subconsciously, and consequently there is given an additional urge to materialization. And in the same way, the occult denial tends to erase or wipe out the mental picture in one's own mind, in the minds of others, or in circumstances and environment, of conditions or things which are not desirable. We have stated that in addition to the above effect, there are peculiar virtues and properties in the spoken word itself, of which we shall not speak further in this work, as it belongs to another phase of the general subject. Do not undervalue the occult statement and the occult denial. They are powerful factors in mentalism, in the direction of strengthening and vitalizing mental images. General application. The average student reading this book will doubtless expect that we will now enter into a detailed description of the various forms of the application of mentalism in the form of mental imaging and thought materialization, but we have no such intention. If this work were to be extended into several volumes for the sake of money-making and humoring the popular taste and demand, we might do so. It would be easy to fill several volumes with detailed description of various forms of application, but to what end? For what purpose? The keen analytical student would soon discover that what had been done was simply to build various structures around the one vital and underlying principle of mental imaging and projection. We prefer that our students shall think and work for themselves, and not be mere blind followers of any teacher or teachers, even of ourselves. There is no room for lazy minds in the ranks of true occultism. Mentalism cannot be given or taken in sugar-coated capsules, one before each meal, like quack medicines. It must be thought out and worked out in actual practice. So if you wish your mentalism in capsules, tabloids, or sugar coats, you must go elsewhere. The field is full of occult nostrums, as many of you have already found out. What we shall do in place of the above is to give you a formula by which you can work out and manifest every form of mentalism for yourself. No matter how complicated the form may be, it may be worked out by this formula. We shall not attempt to prove this to you. You can best prove it by actual practice in your own experiments or work. We cheerfully stake our reputation as practical occultists upon its efficacy. Try it for yourself and see what you can accomplish by it. The formula has borne the test of ages and the experiments and practice of many of the best occultists of the past and present. Consequently, we do not hesitate to stake our reputation on it. The Arcane Formula. The first thing in applying this arcane formula of mentalism is for the student to lay aside all other theories of mentalism for the time being. Forget all about thought force. Forget all about mind waves. Forget all about mental currents. Forget all about the rest of it. These are mere details and are of no value in the real work of mentalism. Forget all about theory for the time being, and then proceed to get down to actual work. Then, fix firmly in your mind the symbol of the magic lantern, with its concentrated light of will, and its painted slide of the mental image. regard the objective world or persons, things, and circumstances as the great plane surface upon which you wish to throw or project your mental images that they may materialize objectively. Get this picture clearly in your mind. See your eye as the light in the lantern, with its concentrated will focused directly upon the mental image slide of the lantern. Hold this idea in mind whenever you practice mentalism. Always stand behind your mental images as the light in the lantern. Then, having your mental image impressed upon your imaginative lantern slide, direct and point your lantern tube upon whatever object in the outside world you wish. If it is a person whom you wish to impress with your thought, mentally direct and focus your mental magic lantern upon him, just as you would upon a plane surface, plane, whether he be far or near. All so-called treatments, as they are called in certain circles, are based upon this principle. The mental image is projected by means of the highly concentrated will. If a number of persons are to be impressed, they may be considered as present in a group, or else the lantern tube may be turned first upon one and then upon another, and so on. If general conditions or environments are to be treated, image them as a whole, and focus your lantern tube directly upon them, producing a projection of gigantic proportions. Surely, these directions cover the whole process. Read them over again and again until you grasp them thoroughly and fully. In the cases of persons whom you may wish to impress, you will find that better results may be obtained by either imaging them as seated or standing before you, in full short range of your mental magic lantern, or else by imaging yourself as in the other person's presence, in his own place, turning your mental lantern full upon him. In the case of persons actually in your presence, proceed in the same way. Places, present or absent, may be treated in this way in order to dispel undesirable conditions or vibrations. The vibrations of places may be entirely changed in this way. Conditions may be treated successfully by turning upon them a strong mental image of the changed conditions you wish to bring about. The entire category of the phenomena of mental transmutation or mental alchemy may be successfully undertaken by the use and application of this formula. You will find that this formula is applicable to all manner and kinds of conditions. A little analysis of each and every case will show you that the formula is applicable to it. Let not the simplicity of this method cause you to discard it in favor of some more technical, complicated, or metaphysical theoretical method. This method overrides all theories of the metaphysical schools An analysis of the latter, divested of the surrounding theories, will show the underlying principle of this method in full operation in each and every one of them. Why not discard and tear off the encumbering theories and so-called explanations and avail yourself of the advantage of employing the essential method underlying all of the forms and theories? Truth, at the last, is always found to be simple. And in the case of this formula, the very simplicity of the operation is a convincing proof of its truth, particularly when a little experiment and practice will prove its availability in all cases. Analyze all other forms of so-called mental treatment or mentalism, excuse me, and see whether the principles of this formula are not involved in them and form their very essence. The beauty of this formula is its simplicity and its capacity for universal application. It may be applied under 1,000 forms or disguises, but the principle remains unchanged. In conclusion, remember that mentalism in a nutshell is the idea conveyed by the symbol of the mental magic lantern, with concentrated will as the light, mental image as the pictured slide, the projected idea as the picture thrown on the screen, and the objective world of persons, things, and conditions as the plane surface upon which the picture is thrown. Add to this the fact that mental images materialize in response to the law of attraction, and you have the entire story of mentalism. I'll read that again. In conclusion, remember, excuse me, remember that mentalism in a nutshell is the idea conveyed by the symbol of the mental magic lantern, with concentrated will as the light, mental image as the pictured slide, the projected idea as the picture thrown on the screen, and the objective world of persons, things, and conditions as the plane surface on which the picture is thrown. Add to this the fact that mental images materialize in response to the law of attraction, and you have the entire story of mentalism. Reread your books on this subject. Listen to the teachings of the cults and the schools. Then, when you have finished with them, ask yourself calmly if the mental magic lantern does not give you the best symbol of the best methods of each and all of them, reducing to the ultimate analysis and divested of useless fringe, trimming, theory, and detail. Then, practice mentalism along these lines. The rest is a matter of patience, practice, and persistency. We have given you the first and the last word in the practice of mentalism. That is the end of William Walker Atkinson's Arcane Formulas. And right now, outside my window, there are firecrackers sounding, because right now, at this very minute, the year just turned over to 2014. Peace. Be well.